Radio Arte, la radio di chi vive il mondo dell'arte. Radio Arte, de radio voor wie de kunstwereld leeft.
Languages of media, the languages of art. Yes, there are in our society many different languages, and I was very struck by Mike's presentation.
But it also means new messages to governments to set new framework.
Learning a new language.
Jesus, what's happening to me? But that's very personal because I'm over 57. That's
in a slightly different context before, but also just to provoke us, especially because soon we're going to have a break and we're really going to make these recommendations, not to be too complacent about, where the arts are, because we still have to make this fight.
I'd like to say a special good evening and welcome to the Almost Real conference. This is a conference that has been run by the European Cultural Foundation under the auspices of its project Art for Social Change. But it's also been a partnership between the Central Museum in Utrecht and the City of Utrecht.
It's not so self-evident. I would say it is a conference that tries to bring a very diverse group of artists and activists. An aim would be also to affirm across Europe these activist attitudes in the artistic production, so to strengthen the connection between cultural practices and civil society engagement. I would say this is the main thrust of the conference.
I learned a lot about what other people are doing in other parts of the world.
New ideas for projects, and I just want to know what's happened in Europe, in other countries. It's for more to make bigger my experience.
How art should be socially responsible, how art should be almost real. I fully agree with this very inspiring title, because if it's real, it's not art, and if it's almost without real, it loses track of reality. So I feel that this is just the right combination. Art has to always be almost real, but at the same time, as I said yesterday, artists have to always keep track of perceiving everybody as not almost human, but as fully human. And artists themselves have to view themselves as humans, fully humans, absolute humans. There's no such thing as almost human.
Yeah, I don't know. I keep it open so far.
Radio Arte Jump.
Les trois lignes de Radio Arte. Première ligne, c'est la radio comme sculpture. Seconde, la radio comme service pour l'art. Le troisième, c'était quelque chose qui est connecté à la conception de la radio comme espace. Donc, on a pratiquement montré ces trois âmes, on peut dire, de Radio Arte à 18 étudiants. Et avec 18 étudiants, on a travaillé pendant 12 jours et on a assuré 8 heures d'émissions live et 24 heures d'émissions chaque jour.
Radio Arte Jump.
On a licencié, on peut dire, 18 nouveaux radioartistes.
Some people say the title is good because it leaves so much open. So for me the title was bad because I had no idea what this conference will be about. Well, the title leaves you, I mean, if you're not really part of the progress, if you're part of the progress, you know what it is about. If you're not, it leaves you a bit lost because almost real could be almost everything, right?
It is an opportunity as much for networking as it is for anything else, because there are very interesting people here, and this provides an opportunity to meet those people. But also, I think it is important that there are a lot of things that happen outside of the European domain, which is important for people here to know about. So, in a sense, what we bring in is a wider, more international perspective. Therefore, I would see my own position here as being an extension of the activism we're involved in, because there are gatekeepers here, people who decide on a lot of things regarding cultural issues, and it is important for them to hear what we have to say.
For me, the aim, again, the main aim was actually to bring all kinds of people together, and to bring together those people who would not meet, because they don't exist in the same world. They are living in their little universes, each group for itself. So it's just, that's the most important.
It was a conference about art for social change and similar initiatives all over Europe. Art in social change, community art, relational art. And I think we tried to understand better what we did in a more comprehensive environment and framework, and to evaluate a little bit the richness, the commonalities, the challenges. And personally, yes, I did try to understand a bit better what is at stake artistically, but also politically.
I got confirmation of what I am doing is right.
After 6 months work, that's almost real. We almost finished this book project.
So how do you do art which on the one hand is not just simply entertainment, but it's also not for a small group of people who are themselves interested in art, you know? How do you reach those people? What do you do with them as an audience, but also as collaborators, as the people involved with you? How do you do that? That's the main question of Art for Social Change. The only difference is that we decided to focus on a one group. How do you do that with young people?
It's a huge field, and it's a very rich field, what we might want to call art for, or art and, or art in social change, and that we would like to represent the diversity of that field, but also we would like to represent work or notions of work that point a way into the future.
I've been invited, I think, to share my experience in doing art in a situation of oppressive conflict, which is a very difficult situation, and many people just are interested how art can still be done in those situations.
And I was speaking about the relation between artists and corporations. I think it's a little bit strange subject. It seems to be a little bit strange subject in this conference, because the theme is the art for social change. But since companies and corporations are very dominant parties in our world, well, it's also important to look at them and how we can use art or work with artists to influence corporations as well. I'm sure it's an enrichment anyhow.
Do we really all of us want to have a democracy like in Italy? you know, speaking about media participation. So I'm not sure whether this is really the horizon in front of which we should look for social change, as it were, because also in the case of social change, we have to think about change, what for, where to, by whom, and where is the whole journey going to go.
And really our idea was to use the computer as a Trojan horse. Computers are very sexy things, you know. You try and enter a school space and the people are very guarded, they're protected of their turf, but you tell them you'll bring in computers and suddenly, yeah, that's good, that's cool. So computers are actually good for getting things in. While this community was there, it helped develop full-fledged internet in Bangladesh. But once internet came in, it actually destroyed these networks, because then it became a South-North dialogue. Everyone was interested in what was out there on the net, not interested in what was happening around them. And we had to work very hard to rebuild these networks that we had done.
I went to the Utrecht model about theater groups in Utrecht getting together and forming some type of collective that is lobbying government, local government and government for more money as community members rather than as competitors, which, as I learned, is a very unique example, not just in the Netherlands, in Western Europe in general. It's not common that theater people or artists in general form any collective. There's always cutthroat competition going on, and so it's refreshing to see this.
I heard French over there, so I can speak a little bit French.
Ja, dankjewel.
Weet jullie ook
And also what he said, in connection to what you're doing, we are very much in touch with what is going on around us. Mm-hmm. Like we also taught the children in the high schools, and that's also the people we are going to play for. So after this, we are going to play for schools, and so it's important that you know your audience from different sides. You know them from being in your classes, you know them from seeing them on the street, and you know them then when they come and watch you, and then afterwards you can talk to them. So you always stay in connection with your audience. With your audience, and I found that a very important and important issue if I want to do something with theater or art.
Everybody has to accommodate themselves. Everybody has to kind of shift their position. So I think it always becomes more inclusive because everybody has changed location into perhaps an unusual situation. And so I thought the debate yesterday and the questions were more interesting and yeah, because we're sitting in a barn on straw and everybody's the same, and we do it to keep warm, maybe to talk. Yeah.
The best experiences we had in the conference were on a smaller scale, when we kind of almost physically came a bit closer to each other, and when people were kind of invited to leave their own territory and to move into the territory of another through a very, maybe personal impression that a presentation or a statement or a contribution made.
Also plan to make a map of the route of the truck driver. So if we actually really want to connect map-wise the milk as it comes from the cow till the mouth of the consumer. So that was a sort of fantasy we had.
The lives and of people, which then has become relevant for all kinds of different areas of activities in a society. Can you imagine that at one moment all this research transformed into a certain form which could be artistic, could then be inspirational to all those other groups let's say, primary research groups, like scientific groups and that.
I think it's fascinating because the first thing you said was how people move through space. And immediately what I started thinking of as a choreographer and director is reproducing that. And then all the implications that has in terms of fractal geometry. If we think of Koyaanisqatsi choreography and dance, if we think of people walking along different paths, yes. I think it has a lot of applications, and that, for example, by reproducing.
What is the limit between art and journalist work?
Although what is presented is nothing else but facts, there is a huge difference between the ways how the facts could be presented. And there is a moment when the facts which are journalistic are becoming artistic by the way they were presented, although maybe nothing in the nature, in the substance of them is changed.
Yeah, but in this case, do you consider Michael Moore, someone like Michael Moore, as an artist performer?
Yes. Okay. In his best moment, yes. In his best moment, yes.
So the rural, in the sense of really the environment outside of the urban centers, but as I said, it was enlarged during the conference to look at the rural in opposite to where we are, look at the rural as a metaphor for elsewhere and for the other. So these thematic points were important to find ways to point into the future so that the potential of this field of art for social change becomes something big, and even bigger than we can imagine or we can grasp right now.
It's very complicated. The world is changing rapidly, art is changing, cultures are changing. What do you mean by social change? Social change not the same in Amsterdam as it would mean in sort of Bratislava or Gdansk. One thing that occurred to me that we are really looking for different forms of what I would call curatorships. A different kind of curating art, and by art that could be working with children in film or doing theatre on the street or doing things in schools. Those are seen traditionally as either sort of explaining art to the people or doing education, and it's neither one or the other. These are new forms of curatorship that we have to experiment with.
What about me? What about me? You. What about me? And you. What about me? What about me?
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the plenary session of the Almost Real Conference. Very well done. All of those of you who are under 57 who managed to get here this morning.
I would see it as a new instrument for people. I would see it as a new environment. I mean, use it well, and develop or try to get the new possibilities in order to make new types of work of art. That's possible. But you need new eyes. I need new eyes to see that.
Cool. So make it very local, make it small, make it intimate, beautiful, and then spread it on the widest possible media level. There's no contradiction in those two ways of working.
And then another thing was that I very much wanted to find a way to cut through the different sectors of the arts. Very often, at least the way I witness it, we have a distinction between amateurs and professional, and we have a distinction between high and low, and we have a distinction between, let's say, the institution and the autonomous field. And I think these fields can learn from each other, and they very often don't communicate with each other, or not even have a language, or not even have an opportunity to communicate with each other. So that's why, in terms of speakers, we were looking into all kinds of directions and trying to find people that are established artists or established, let's say, programmers or policy people, and to find people that are really working on a grassroots level for very good reasons, not because they can't work anywhere else, but really because that's an important choice. But
say to the journalist, go to hell. This is an important piece of work. I get all my life, I've been working for this very complicated thing, and I'm not going to say in 5 seconds what you want me to do. I'm not going to do that. And use this soundbite to say this, and not to explain the work. If you want to take me seriously, you have to take me seriously. And I talk to you on my own terms and not in your terms. That is what I would advise. And not being smart, learning the language of the media. Don't do that. I mean, you have lots of languages to learn. Don't do this one. They will die out.
So is it not a paradox that artists need to be explained and translated and cannot talk directly to the society?
Okay, la cuffietta ce l'hai, vero?
And then you have a desire of young people to orient themselves and to develop their best qualities and capacities in all respects, culturally, artistically, socially, in a human sense. And I think this Art for Social Change movement bridges between this desire and a new way of organizing political will.
Art is more and more instrumentalized, is more and more used for political and economical reasons. There is no sufficient way developed of communicating what is going on in art.
And what I would hope, let's say, for the ECF, for the future, is that they don't give up searching for ways to bridge that gap between grassroots initiatives and really artists doing the work, and then learning, but I really mean learning from their particular knowledge and their particular investment in social change.
Almost Real today is something about contemporary culture and art at this moment, and 15 years ago people would have been very surprised to go to any conference called Almost Real.